Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom podcast. I am your host, Luke Beastall, and I have a fellow Brit on the podcast with us today. He is a fitness entrepreneur from Swansea, 57 years of age. And now you're probably thinking, why am I putting this on so early in the actual intro section? And the reason being is because he's actually spent and invested 31 years of his life in a corporate role at Royal Mail, and he decided that he didn't want to be there anymore. And he's now, from his own experiences, helping other guys perform and operate at their best self and help them rediscover their purpose. And he's, like I say, he's in the fitness and wellness industry. He lives his life out in the luxurious, beautiful Spain of Marbella and travels around. But look, I wanted to get him on today because his story is something that I believe will really, really help a lot of you guys that listen to our show on a regular basis, especially if you're in that place where you're not really sure what that first step will be. So look, Huw, welcome to our podcast. It's great to have you on with us today.
Luke, thanks for having me. This is a joy. This is a pleasure.
No, it is. Well, look, obviously, I've been looking forward to this. It was a long time in the making. We sort of chatted quite a few months ago. You sort of reached out to us, and it's great that we're having this conversation now. Just sort of, I know I did a bit of an intro, but if there's anything else that you would like to just give our audience on about what it is that you do and what, a little bit of what got you to this place, please, the floor is yours, mate. I want you to share that with us.
Okay, great. Luke, you pretty much nailed it. I keep it simple. I help guys of a certain age get themselves back, get their energy back, get their bodies back, and get their sense of purpose, which I know we're going to talk about quite a bit today.
Yes.
Because it's something I feel, I've been through, I get it. So that is it. That's it. That's what I do.
No, it's great. Do you know what? Your energy is great. And I think, we were talking before, and I think let's touch on this because obviously the weather's not been good to us. It's not been kind to us as of recent. You've just said that Swansea, where you're from, is the wettest city.
Apparently so.
Is it apparently so. So it rains every single day.
Yeah.
Where do you get your energy from?
I genuinely believe, right? It's that, and I don't like this, think positive, and we have to feed ourselves, don't we? Not just good food, and we've got to move, none of that stuff, but feed. I don't watch the news, for example. I don't watch the news, It's just whatever we put into our brains and in our mouths gives us that energy. But there's no doubt that we have to look after our bodies. That's it. Without that, I think it underpins everything we do, Luke. Everything we do, how we act, how we think, how we feel, But, we were trying to get the engine running a bit smoother, running like a bit of a Ferrari, and that'll give us, rather than the Nissan Micra, and that'll give us the energy. But I believe in training so much. And the older you get, the more I believe in training. The older we get. Not we shouldn't do it, or we should take it a bit easy. 100% not. It's the other way around. We should train harder, more consistent, more efficient. But for sure, that keeps the body, keeps the motor going, keeps the energy high, man, because we've got to have good energy. Otherwise, we're stuffed.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I love that as well. Thank you for sharing that in a simple way. I think this is going to be digestible for the guys listening in. Well, look, obviously you're 57 years young and you've got an abundance of energy, and you talk about the training aspect. Would you, and be honest here, would you say that? And it could be. Would you say you've always had this sort of energy, or have you done something to enhance it to be in this place? Just let us know on that.
I think training has moved, and being self-employed has sort of amplified it a bit. But I've always had the energy. Again, for stuff I like, Luke. I don't watch a lot of TV, to be honest, much to my wife's dismay. But I don't waste energy. I've never wasted energy. If I don't want to do something, I don't do it. In my previous life, it was all getting into tech. It wasn't as good as it is today. And I never wanted to learn that stuff because it would just drain my energy, because why am I learning to do a spreadsheet, for example, back in the day, when that's going to take my energy and focus away? And I'm not really interested when I can go and do what I'm good at, which energizes me. So I try and not do anything I don't like or I'm rubbish at, or it just doesn't float my boat. And I think that keeps my energy up. Because one thing I have found, Luke, that stuff like that, so the 20% of what I do will take 80% of my energy, like all my admin tasks now and all that's the tech stuff. I outsource it because it doesn't do anything for me, and I'd end up losing all my time doing something I don't like. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
It just doesn't make any sense to me, you know?
That's good. That's good. And I think it's great that you've actually taken the autonomy and responsibility to be like, look, I'm delegating this and I'm doing it. So I have got a question, because it's like I know a lot of people, and I'm sort of sat here and I already feel your energy and I love it. And there'll probably be people listening and going, God, this guy has got a lot of energy. Where does this come from? Sort of thing. And probably they're like, how do you go about it? How do you get it? So the two questions I want to ask is sort of what really, I know what the answer is going to be, but I want to ask you anyway. What really energizes you? What's like a 10 out of 10? And also on the other side, the flip side, what drains your energy the most?
What energizes me is I like my day structured, but with a lot of flexibility in there. Do you know? I like to go to bed. I'm not one that says you've got to have 8 or 10 hours sleep or whatever, right? You get good sleep, good sleep. I go to bed early because all my work in life, Luke, I work nights or late evenings.
Right.
20, I would say for 22, 3 years of my 31, I either work night shift, right, or a late shift. So now I don't do that anymore. I've flipped it completely, and I'm in bed by 9 o'clock at the latest. That isn't why I go to bed at 9. I get up early because it just works for me. But protecting the energy at all times is massive for everybody. Saying no. The blokes my age, we have a lot of problems saying no to people. We like to please. That's human nature. And again, that's that drain. That is a big drain on energy. Doing stuff and getting involved in stuff, even small stuff that you don't need to. Do you know? Let me give you a quick example. If next door's, I've used this a few times. This is a bit crass, right? But if 3 doors down's cat has died, right, I'm not going to go, oh my God, that's terrible. It's not my cat. It's nothing to do. Don't wish them any harm, and I hope they're okay. But why am I getting involved in that? It's not my grief. It's not my thing to. It's a bit of a crass way of putting it, but that's how I like to.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'm just saying. So I got that. So you're taking on somebody else's weight. Absolutely. You're carrying somebody else. It's not your drama. It's not your emotion.
And it may only be a little bit, but it's taking.
Yes, I know.
Only our battery's only full.
Okay. So this is good. This is good because I know this is a common thing with our Brit mentality and UK mentality. We'll go into your story, but I think this is really good where we are. We're talking about taking on people's drama and weight. We are great, I feel, as people in UK to not probably like necessarily. I mean, some people are very keyboard warrior and putting stuff out, but we're very good at sort of watching and seeing what everybody else is doing and actually not taking anything upon ourselves. So we're sort of like a bit of a watcher rather than a doer, right? Which is quite draining, isn't it? It's draining to watch and just see that, people are putting up a highlight reel and going, oh, look at me. So for you, what do you do to sort of, because obviously you're in a world where you're helping a lot of people now. What's helped you sort of like not block it out, but stay, maybe that barrier, that boundary is there for you to keep your energy protected?
I think in my professional stuff and my own fitness, I've got a completely different way of training and coaching. Yeah. So I've got I would get no value at all in getting engrossed in other PT's stuff or younger PT's stuff. So I'm not this. You could troll my social media for 10 years. I've never put not one sour comment on anything ever.
That's why you don't need to though, is it?
You need to, but again, that's energy sucking. Getting involved in a row. I put plenty of sarcastic, foul-mouthed stuff about politicians or stuff like that. But I've never put a serious comment on anybody. I've had a few people say a few things, and I've just gone, cool, man. I'm not getting involved, and that
sure.
And again, I got nothing to learn which is not, that's not right, because you always learn. But I've got most people in my world is fairly fixed. What they do is fairly standard stuff, and I know we're going to go into it. I train for 20 minutes, and whereas everything's done by the hour, and I thought, well, I don't need. I'm not going to get anything out of it. If I can't get anything out of it, why am I putting stuff into it? In all aspects. Again, protecting energy,
Yeah, it's good that you say that, and I think just it is simple, isn't it? Really, when you look at it, you're just sort of saying to yourself, going, "Look, if someone's going to come at me and maybe try to offload their weight, and I just be like, okay, cool," or I'm not saying you're not empathetic, because obviously it's this trait that you have as a coach, but the reality is like you're talking about your energy and protecting it, whereas I do believe so many of us are not being able to fulfill what we want to fulfill because our energy is drained from being so much in the pleasing aspect and so many other people's businesses, rather than if we just stay in our own lane and focus on ourselves, then maybe we would be a little bit closer towards where we want to be, right? And where we want to go.
In my previous life, Luke, right, I used to say to my manager, I'd have a team of managers, right? And I would say two things. Number one, don't go looking for trouble, because it'll come looking for you, right? So, if you go looking for trouble, energy, don't look for it. You'll get enough. Don't worry. Trust me, you'll get enough coming your way. So don't go looking for energy and for trouble. And the second one I used to say was, don't worry about above. That's my job, right? Don't worry about them. The mythical people, the people from London. I can deal with them. That's not your job. You just concentrate, put your energy into that 8 hours, because I never liked the long hours culture either, Luke. I never liked that. I know managers saying, I've been here 12 hours, I've done it for great. What have you proved? You've been in the building for 14 hours. Great. How productive have you been? I never liked it. I never liked people sending me emails at 6 a.m. or crazy times to prove that they're productive. Proved, I don't want to know. I think go in for 8 hours, and it's the same as my training philosophy. Get in there for 20 minutes, nail it, and get out. My work was the same. 8 hours, we're gonna give it our best. That's it.
Yeah.
No more.
And that's really great. Obviously, you've got a very good mindset, I believe, towards your work and obviously the people that you managed, and obviously now you've sort of utilized that experience and taken it into something now that is freedom for you. It's given you a lot of joy and fulfillment. With this, I mean, I want to delve into this now, because I think this is a really interesting part for us to go into, especially with the guys who listen quite regularly about this transition that they're in their life. I mean, we all have little transitions, but I think they're in like a bit of a leap of faith transition.
Yeah.
For you, obviously, that you stayed. Obviously, you was in Royal Mail for 31 years.
Yeah.
Looking back upon hindsight, could you have left sooner? Was there a moment was there a part in that journey of that time where you gone, I wish I'd have left then, or do you think it was just the timing, or what? Like just share a bit on that.
So, Luke, from two dreams years ago as a kid, right? One was to be self-employed, okay?
Right.
And one was to work away from home, to live and work away from home, right? I don't know where they seriously, and I don't know where they came from, those two dreams, right?
Yeah.
You get involved in a job, you get involved in a career, you have the mortgage and stuff, so you do get stuck. And I don't think men should give themselves too much problem over that. I was in that cycle, but I was happy. I'm going to give you a bit more detail here. I've self-built the two houses we've got, right? I'm not a builder, but I bought a plot of land and built a house, okay? So I was fortunate financially to be in a position in my sort of mid-40s where we were mortgage free, which is a hell of a position, earned, because building two houses, if you're not in the trade, is it's hell. It's 2 years of hell, right? But it was never on the cards to leave, because I was earning good money. I've been doing it forever. It was relatively stress-free because... But I know we'll get into the story of how I fell back into this coaching lark, because I used to do it in the 90s, would you believe?
Yeah.
I used to do it part-time, because early on in my Royal Mail days, I used to live in London for 2 days a week, real crazy lifestyle. Live every Wednesday, so Tuesday and Thursday night, Wednesday and Friday, I'd be in London, which is why I know London like the back of my hand. So I used to work in a gym, in Acton, East Acton. So so that was that. But there was never on the cards to leave because I was never trained in anything. I don't have other than a fitness qualification, which are, they are not worth the paper they printed on. But other than that, I didn't have any qualifications. I didn't know. I just knew, Luke, that at some point, I didn't know what at the time, at some point I was going to leave to do something, but I didn't have it. There was no master plan. There was no, right, this is the plan. It was just in my head. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know what. And then the story happened of how I fell back into this stuff, So, no, the answer, the long-winded answer was there was no plan to leave. You can leave at any time, but I never had any real serious, yes, I'm going to go and try that. It was none of those moments. No, not at all.
So this was good because obviously, you say that you didn't really have a plan, but you had an ambition. So there was an ambition there inside of you that you sort of signaled it. You planted the seed.
Yeah.
You just needed to water the garden a little bit more. And obviously you did once you got in a position where, like you said, financially, you started putting your eggs in a row and going, well, now I'm mortgage free.
Yeah.
Right. It's confidence because obviously the biggest thing, and everybody will talk about it, when you jump into the self-employed world, and I know this firsthand because I've been doing it 10 years, is that you just don't know where your next maybe client will come from. You're also very scared about paying bills, because you've got no security, same paycheck each month on the same day, whatever. It's all very up in the air. For you, what if we go back to, so how old was you when you said that I want to be self-employed and I want to work in a different environment? When was that? Can you remember?
I remember it initially. I was about 13 or 14. For some reason, I remember.
Wow.
Seriously, I remember chatting to my father at the time, and I remember saying to him, "Because what are you going to do when you're older? That's the sort of thing." That I said, no idea. I was good at school, but couldn't be bothered really. But I just said, I want to work for myself, and I don't know where it come from. None of my family are business people. None of them have got their own businesses, or there's no sign of it anywhere. But I just had this thing, and I don't know what it was. And I always wanted to work and live away from home as well. And I'm as Welsh as, obviously, and as Welsh as Tom Jones, or Gareth Bale. But it's like, and I did a little bit when I was in London. I did a little bit when I was in London.
You tasted it, yeah. You got
the taste, and now happily I'm in Spain more than I'm here, which is fantastic. So that's. But it was from early on. But work-wise, is that the question? When did I decide to leave? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think where I was sort of heading next, it was just interesting to hear when you'd actually said that I want to be self-employed. I mean, I have to say, that's quite mature for a 13, 14-year-old young man to sort of be aspiring to be self-employed. Even in your times, weren't it all trade back in your area? Weren't it all heavily finish school, go into be a tradesman?
Absolutely, and I didn't do that, But I think my risk taking, I think when we spoke before, my mother died when I was 5. She was 32, and I absolutely believe that 2 things have come from that. Right, one is my health. Right? Yeah, that for me, I think I've sort of analysed it psychologically myself. My health, we've got nothing. Whatever car we drive, whatever house we got, great.
Yes.
We've got nothing. I genuinely believe that we've got nothing. We rent in these bodies, look after them before, because that's all you've got. That's the only thing you've got,
Yeah.
And secondly, her dying at that age taught me that nothing matters either. Nothing matters. What is risk? What is risk? How do you quantify risk? Nothing matters. When you've been to that level of, well, it cannot get any worse than that. So what the hell? Go and try stuff. I did it when I was in Royal Mail. I took jobs and went for jobs, that people like me shouldn't go for, shouldn't, but I went for it and I thought, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I use another crass analogy. I may have to get my chicken from Iceland rather than the organic butchers, but I'm going to eat. I may have to sell the house and buy a smaller house, but I'll have a roof. What else? There's no risk. There's no risk. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a head around it. You've got to understand. You've got to be prepared to take it. But ultimately, there's no risk.
No, and something I heard to you, and this will probably relate to your story, really. We'll just touch on something in a second. I appreciate you sharing that vulnerability as well on our show, because I know it's never. I know you're quite okay with it, and I know we'd spoken in that, but it's still
I
not
am now.
easy. Yeah,
I was
yeah,
years,
yeah, definitely.
years, and years.
Yeah, but like what you just said about risks, right? No, I heard this from somebody, and I think it's so true. No risk, no story.
Absolutely.
And I thought, and this is what I'm saying. You think about people that it's the story it's the story of where you've been and what you've gone through that gets people moving. Hence, why you're on here today, being shown you're going to have an impact on people. You're going to help people who's listening and watching this back. That's amazing.
Average is a word for me that gets my. I was going to say gets my hair on end. That's a bad analogy, but it's like but no, accepting. I got this real thing. I will get up on my toes a little bit here about accepting. In my working life, we used to do a process or something, and I would say, well, why can't we change that? Well, this is how we do it. Just accepting things, because you never know if you don't try something outrageous. You're never gonna, it's the old moonshot theory, isn't it? If you're gonna have a shot, have a shot. Just playing safe and being the same as everybody else. And I think I know where that's come from as well. I'm quite happy to share that. Being the same, doing the same, going to work. I know I did all that, but outside, and I did it differently. One of my big heroes, he's up here. One of my big heroes. I'm a big punk music fan, right? That's the Sex Pistols, but it was Sid Vicious, nice. Right? Sid Vicious, you may not remember him, but he did the song My Way, Frank Sinatra song. And I want on my headstone, seriously, okay, he did it his way. Yeah, I conformed to certain things, I did the career and the family, but you've got to be willing to go, hang on, there's no rules. You've got to pay your tax. Other than that, there's no rules. What are rules? What are rules? I just say to my man, just go for it. Go for it. Yeah, what? Don't worry about what if. I'll take that. I'll take that on the chin. You go. If you've got an idea, go all out for it, because I'm behind you. Because you've got to encourage people as well. You've got to encourage people. But we've got to be prepared. It is risky. You've got to be prepared to sometimes fall flat on your face, because you do, as you know.
Yeah. Obviously, you got to fail forwards. I mean, like I say, no risk, no story. But I can see now, where this has come from for you, Huw. Obviously, your mum passing at 32, you only being 5 years old is still hard to sort of adapt and take on with such a young age. If you don't mind sharing, what did your mum pass of? What was it? Because you said about health being everything. So I'm just wondering, was it related to that?
Brain hemorrhage.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. That was,
But it could have been anything. Now, in my
course,
mind, it was just like, clearly there was a health issue of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, my entire working life, I was involved in safety as well. Boring subject, right? But safety. I never use the word health and safety, because people start, health and safety. No, I'm not going there. But again, it's like the risk assessment, and then you do risk assessments in the office or something, you risk assess your life and think, right, okay, any illness could come onto anybody, right? But you try and take the risk down. You look after yourself, you eat well, you and do all the right things. And I think it's about, for me, but then it goes past that. Then it's about energy for me. It's about energy. To support. I'm not going to be that granddad. I haven't got grandkids yet. I'm not going to be the granddad who takes his kids and his grandkids to Florida and pays, right? And then and then sits on a bench while the kids are on Summit Plummet. I'm up there. I'm that. I want to be that granddad.
Yeah, that's amazing that you've still got that, and I think as well, like, you've got those aspirations. You've still got that drive, in you at your age. I mean, obviously you've gone through this world. Obviously, you've always had it in you about this energy, pushing people to sort of, go out the comfort zone, take those risks.
Yeah.
Through this corporate world that you was in, through having a career, like you said, you said you've conformed in some way, but you've always said, there's no rules. I want to do it my way. You've always, and I think it's brilliant. What did you sort of take away and learn about yourself from this 31 years stint in employment?
I think the big one for me, right, when you're growing up, I was different. There's a bit of a story to this, right? I was different, okay? I got a Welsh name. My mother passed at 5. I got a Welsh name, but everybody at my age was Robert or Stephen or Andrew or something, you know? I had a Welsh name. I was left-footed playing football, different, right?
Same, lefty, mate. I'd love
lefty,
that.
mate. Oh,
Yeah.
left. But, you know, back in the day, I had thick, curly hair as well, you know, which is probably why I'm growing, you know. So I was always conscious about being different. You know, I was conscious about being different. And of course, when you go into your teenage years, you try and conform, you try and fit in. And I never did. And I never did. And this isn't a pity story. I never did. But you try. And I got into work and you still try a little bit. And I got into the management thing and I thought, and I don't know when it happened, but I stopped trying. I thought, why am I trying to do something? I'm not comfortable in that anyway. So why am I trying to be part of the gang when I don't really want to be part of the gang? I don't want to be part of any gang because I hate labels, Luke. I hate anybody being labelled. I am a whatever it is, because then you're pigeonholed. You're tied, aren't you? You know. So I never wanted to be labelled as that whatever. I wanted to be able to go, yeah, he's trustworthy, he'll deliver, but keep out of his way because, you know, you're not going to like some of the things that he's going to do or say, you know, but you'll get the results. And I love that freedom to be myself, even though you've got certain parameters that you've got to stick to, of course, working for a big company. And it's now transferred into what I do now, because I now love that freedom to just do whatever I want to do. So I think it came from that early age of trying to conform, but knew I wasn't in the gang. I wasn't. It's not my thing. I don't follow the herds now. I've got guys my age, mates my age, still go to play pool down the club on a Monday night. They're 57. They've been doing it since they were 17. Do you know? And that for me, serious. And that for me is like, wow. And I never wanted. I knew early on I never wanted that. I never wanted to accept that my Saturday night was spent in the social club, like my generations were. That for me, I could see it at an early age. No, that ain't for me. That ain't for me, you know. So learning. The big thing is to accept that, and not accept. Go with it. If you're different, think differently, act differently. Go with it.
Yes, so be yourself, you know, lean into that. Yeah, like, you know, you're unique. No one's you. No one's got your story. So, you know, why conform? Why, you know, put yourself in, like you said, the pigeonhole to fit in? You know, I mean, obviously we've all been there. We've all probably tried, like you said, fitting in, but you resist it more and more. And obviously, like if we go back to the energy draining part, it's quite draining to fit in.
Exhausting.
If it's not you.
It's exhausting. You know, if I go on social media now and I've been consistent for 10 years on social media, and people say, how do you do it? How do you do it? Right. And I say, it's easy because there's no show. You know, if I want to do, I've been to play paddle, right? So I did a video while I'm waiting for the boys to turn up at the paddle. You know, I haven't got to make sure I've got branded gear on or speak properly or like, I can't say that. Just pick your phone up and do a social media post, or, you know, just when I write something, I literally write what's in my head and if I was speaking, and don't edit stuff. It's exhausting. Put it out there, you see, because otherwise,
it's
exhausting. It's exhausting.
So this is. Yeah, this is refreshing for me to hear, actually, because, you know, I can relate to this, and I'm sure people listening can relate, especially with maybe if their business or what they do is heavily related to putting out on social media. It is exhausting to try and pre-plan 30 days of content or whatever, you know, been in the mentorships. For you, obviously, you're making it seem quite like, I mean, at the minute, obviously, you say, look, I'm just getting my phone out. You're making it sound simple. You're making it fine, easy. Obviously, you've been consistent 10 years. Congratulations on that. That's hard. You know, consistency is hard in anything, really. What would you sort of say to somebody if they're sort of like, I know you just pick up the phone, but, you know, if they're really going, I know what you're saying, you make it sound easy. What would really help them to lean into that unique self and put out what ultimately they want to put out to the world?
a genuine, simple. You've got to do it. I know it's cliche, it's corny, it's obvious. Just do it. Just grab your phone, do a live. You do one, you get a bit more confident. You do two, you do three, and don't worry, they're going to be rubbish. I put some stuff out in the past. I used to dress up I created my own PT, a fictional PT. I couldn't get one to come and work in my gym, so I created this woman off the top of my head called Heidi, and I used to wear a blonde wig, women's gym wear, leggings, crop top. And I went into Home Bargains one Saturday morning and did a live from Home Bargains dressed in this.
You're mad.
Brilliant. What a response. Brilliant. But again, and I'm not super confident, Luke, right? If in my corporate world, if I had to go into a room and sit on a table like you used to have to go to conferences and stuff, that's my idea of hell. Really uncomfortable on a table of 10, all the small talk and stuff. I just really uncomfortable to the point of really I don't like this at all. Right? Ask me to go and speak on the stage to the same 500 people, I would be absolutely fine. No problems whatsoever. So we've all got our little quirks as well, haven't we? We've all got our little things that we have to lean into. And I forget where that was going, but that just came in my head then.
It's good.
About how the confidence to do something, but it only comes from just doing it. Just go on Facebook, put some stuff out there, be prepared. Failing is great. I say to people, if we're failing, if we're not failing, we're not trying hard enough. Cliche again. You've got to push them. You've got to try stuff. Which goes back to if we don't shoot, if we don't have a goal, you're missing some moonshots, aren't we? We're missing some gold dust. If we don't dig deep enough, there's gold dust somewhere. But we've got to be prepared, and it's hard for people, Luke. I will say to the thought of failing, because our frame of reference is Instagram, isn't it? Where everybody's winning. Everybody's winning on Instagram, and that's how. Oh my God! If I put a post up, I'm not as good as her or him. Whereas you've got to detach yourself and go, I'm doing it. I'm just doing it. And they get better. Of course.
Yeah, it's great, though, that you've given that example because, cliche, just do it. The Nike sort of motto, isn't it? Just do it. It is that. It's just showing up. I love the fact that you shared that sort of flamboyant sort of example of you doing that. That's pretty ballsy. To be able to go out and do that, right? And obviously, of course, you would have been nervous. Of course, you probably had sweaty palms, hitting that live. But like you said, it's just initially, I guess, going over that fear barrier of like, but I've done it. I might have failed miserably, but I've learned from it. And it's interesting because I heard Ed Sheeran talk about this a lot, that the where he's learned the most in his career is actually from the failures, not the lessons have been learned that way rather than from the wins and the highs, etc.
Do a little story attached to that, Luke, right? After I did that live, and I was full on, blonde wig, a lot.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right? Of course. I had a phone call that afternoon. This was a Saturday morning in Home Bargains. I had a phone call that afternoon. It's a true story, right? Of a lady, one of a prominent business lady in Swansea, right? And she said to me, I've been stalking you, i.e. watching you without commenting, never liked or commented, nothing, for months. And as soon as I saw that, I know I needed to contact you. And she did. I met her on the Monday morning and she signed Monday morning. So despite everybody telling me, what are you doing? You're
an idiot, you're silly, or whatever, yeah.
You're serious, and I'm serious about my fitness. I'm not serious about life, but I'm serious about my fitness. I work with some big guys, big people. You're trying to be this coach of serious businessmen, and you're prancing around, wrong word, prancing around in a blonde wig. How can you take, and I just thought, who cares? What's good? Is someone going to say to me, I'm not signing? If someone said to me, I'm not signing with you because you did that, good. Because then I wouldn't want you in my world anyway, because you're not fun. Do you know?
Yeah, of course. So, unique. You're unique. You're being yourself.
This is what you get. This is what you're going to get. There's no, there's no side. There's no, I keep saying earlier, there's no story. There's no performance. Now that's a theatrical performance, but there's no performance. This is it. People sign, this is what you get. This is it, And I think it's important. It's like authentic you, isn't it? that authentic you.
Yeah, but but that's brilliant though. Yeah, the authentic you being yourself and actually knowing. Probably most people would say to you that people are just going to skip past that or scroll past it, but actually knowing that there's somebody for everybody in a way. If you put a signal out to the world on something that you are passionate about, that you think, do you know what, I'm going to do something that I want to do and nobody's told me to do it, and then you get that phone call. That's insane. That's so good. And I think that's something that I'd love our sort of, listeners here and watchers on this to take from you, from sharing that you put out whatever it is you want to put out and let people know what it is that you want to bring to the world,
Do you know, it's like, otherwise we're sort of throttled by fear, aren't we? If I'd thought about that, of course I wouldn't have done it, would I? It made no sense what I did, other than I thought, well, it's a crack, it's a bit of fun, we're not hurting anybody, I'm comfortable. But if I'd really thought about it and gone and done a bit of analysis, because I hate data, Luke, I hate data, right? Data for me just throws people. It's done from my previous life, come from HR, from the finance department. Whenever I try to do a moonshot again, how much is it going to cost? What's the cost benefit analysis? I used to go cost benefit analysis. I'm trying to create some bit of magic. So how the hell can I put a cost on it? Again, I've really got a problem with data in some respects, because it will send you to a path that's logical, that's sensible, that is, low risk. Nobody ever got on by doing that stuff, but that's what data tells us to do, isn't it? A lot of the time, So
what? Yeah, this is good. So, because obviously, in a lot of people's businesses, they're driven by data, right? Because the data measures it, it checks in, it knows where you are, it knows where the progression are. What do you do differently then, Huw, to be able to know where, say, you are with, like, say, your training, your weights, and people that you work with, if you're not so on the data? I'm just curious.
Yeah, being willing to do things, you've got to be willing to do things differently. You've got to be willing to try things, because if you don't, like I train for 20 to 25 minutes, right, every other day. So 4 times over 8 days, right? So 3.5 times a week, right? Now, if I hadn't tried that, back in my day, it was you did, whatever split, and you did 4 sets of 8 to 12, you conform to, that's the data. There's a scientific report for everything. The earth is flat, the earth is round, there's the science behind it all. But if I'd stuck to the data that this is what you should do, I'd never have discovered my way of thinking of how I train and how I train people and how I put, and I just think, trying to give a Royal Mail example, I probably got hundreds of them. It's like, it was always governed by, but we don't do it that way because, and I'm just thinking we miss out on people, right? We don't give people the opportunity to shine. I always used to pluck somebody off the floor as well, Luke. Somebody, and I was generally an outlier, somebody that wasn't, maybe just on the periphery of stuff, because I like to give people a chance. And I always put, wherever I was, I pulled somebody off the floor, which cost money, because they're now no longer doing floor work, right, to come and work with me and do all my stuff that I hate doing, but they got exposed to doing something that they're good at as well. But you've got to be prepared to take the risk of, I'm taking that person out of the floor. That's 8 hours per day. They're not producing something, but again, the productivity gains from being proactive on the floor, being amongst the people, giving people a chance, keep going back to that energy, give people a chance, fail, cock it up. I don't care. I love it. In fact, great. Make a mess of it, great. I love it, because I love answering to them upstairs. I'm comfortable doing that, But I just used to love, going off on one. I used to love it when people come out of their shell, because everybody's got a talent, I believe, Luke, somewhere. I don't know who knows what it is, but it's got to be allowed to come out, And I think I was good at seeing that in people. And come on, come and have a go. I'll stand with you. Don't worry. Come on, let's go.
Right. So what I'm sort of getting, thank you for sharing that, and don't ever apologize for going off on tangents. You honestly, it's absolutely fine, because this is where good stuff comes. What I'm sort of feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've spoken earlier about conforming, feeling fixated. I'm sort of seeing from you that you've been in that world where you've seen that, where people are fixated, say, on data, logistical.
Yeah.
They very much like follow the sheep or follow the pack.
Yeah.
That's life done. I'm here for retirement, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You on the other hand of just that's it, I'm done. I've got my career. I'm there till I'm retired, right? You sort of gone, hold on a minute. I want this. I've got this ambition. Yes, obviously I can understand you respect data, but you're thinking but you're probably limiting your talent and potential by being so obsessed with the data. You're fixed. You're not in a growth mindset, and you're living in more scarce than abundance because you're so heavily reliant on that, and you're not being able to explore who you truly are. Is that a bit of, does that make sense, or am I off?
No, 100%. When I left, I was 50, Luke, right? And I had 30 years worth of pension. I never bought into I had a pension because we had one. I never bought into the premise of pensions, right? And people look at me now, what? You've done, right? My mother was 32, my father was only 60, right? My pension, I at the retirement age at the time was 67, right? I was 50. I thought, right, I've got another 17 years minimum. It's probably go up by then as well, right? So I'm looking at potentially 20 years now doing this, which I'm doing standing on my head now. The money is really good for Swansea, right? And I'll be honest, it was really good for down this part of the world. I've been doing it so long, it was easy. Boredom is one of the biggest stresses of all, in my opinion, as well. Boredom, one of the biggest stresses. And I kept saying to myself, I'm alive today. I'm alive today with my energy today. Why am I sticking with this for 20 years to build up a pension pot, which may not even be there in 20 years or will be severely less than it is, when I don't care. I don't care about that. My kids are sorted, right? We've got the house. I always had that in my mind. Look at the house. At some point I'm not going to, it's theirs. So I thought, I'm not sticking to this. I cannot stick in this humdrum, which goes back to the days of my mates still going to the club, because that's the treadmill that they're happy with. And I never accepted it from a very early age. I stopped going, and when I was about 20, 21, I stopped. I thought, no, this life, this slotting in and being I did, when people of my age love the 80s music, Luke, right? You're far too young, Duran Duran, Wham, and all this.
I know them though. I've listened to them. I like them. Yeah, they are good.
You can't see my record collection. I'm a huge punk music fan. I love punk music, right? Absolutely. I still go to gigs. I'm still in the pit. I just love the energy. Again, right? Whatever people think of punk music, think of the Sex Pistols, right? It's pure energy. It's anarchy and energy. That's what it is, right? And those ideals are mine all the way through. Is that energy and that anarchy, that willingness to say, no, stuff I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I used to say to directors, honestly, Luke, get in more trouble than most. Directors would come down from London to see we doing something. And I used to say, look, I've got no interest in talking to you because you're just going to ask for another 0.5% off the bottom line next year. I understand all that, right? The most important people this is how I think, the most important person on my shift, people in my shift or my building, wherever I was, were the cleaners. Right? The foundation stuff. They set the standard, don't they? If the place is clean, people feel better.
Yeah.
If they feel better, they'll do. Because I used to say, you don't know about data, Mr. Director. If people feel better, if we treat people better, they'll do more. There's your productivity data. Not some number game by taking out 15 hours, which equates to, what about if we make people happier, make them feel a bit more engaged, and they'll do a bit more? That's productivity. So again, that goes back to my thing about people. People are the energy, aren't they? People are the energy. We've got to empower them. Same as I do with the clients now. If somebody phones me up to say, can I have I've had this one in the past, no? Can I have a Pepsi Max? Or can I have a few beers? And can I have?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Okay. Let's have a chat about that.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling it from you. Obviously, you're very much of a people person, which is great. Obviously, you've worked in that environment for a while.
This is ironic.
Yeah, definitely. And to be fair, I can relate to it, and I'm sure a lot of people will as well. I think the human element is what connects us and brings us together as humans, to get, togetherness, community, and stuff like that. I'd just love to know, because obviously I'm not saying we need to hit the doom and gloom, because this episode's been so uplifting and so sort of buzzing. Um, what's been, if you could pick out an experience or a moment in your life, Huw, you might go back to what we've already spoken about, but what's been the hardest and the most challenging experience that you've had to go through in your life so far, that you maybe haven't shared for a while?
Growing up was tough. Hard, you know. I didn't talk about this until a few years back. I'm happy now to do it, but it's I grew up. My father remarried. The old stepmother thing, that
Yeah.
thing that there was a load of us in the house. Didn't like it at all. Didn't like it at all. When my father was working, I'd be in the house or out of the house. I'll be honest with you, really candid here, or locked out of the house because she would just go up her mother's for the evening. This is facts. I'm not having to go at her. She can do what she likes, But growing up was really tough. I'm really introverted, and ironically now, the only skill I had as a manager was people. But I would live in a one-bedroom lighthouse, and I'm not kidding, right? I could live on my own, solitary, and not see anybody for months. I would prefer, which is the ironic bit, My only skill as a manager was people. My only skill, right? Ask me my numbers. Ask me what my year-on-year cost reduction is. I'm not even interested in it, But my only skill was getting people to feel better and do better. So it ties in with what I'm doing now, doesn't it? I think it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
getting people feeling that they're valued. We don't do it enough. You're getting paid. Do as you're told. You're getting paid, so stop. What are we complaining about? You're missing the point, Mr. Director. We're trying to get them to do a bit more. That's my only job. Get people to do a bit more. Make them feel good. Which is what I do now. Because we're going to a sense of purpose. I've got guys now, mates of mine, retiring. Perfect story. I went on the golf range yesterday. I put something on Facebook, me giving it a whack. And I met a guy, Dean, I hadn't seen for years, just retired from the steelworks, my age. Happy as Larry, right? And I've got a real close mate, retired. And this is what he does. He used to be in work at 6 o'clock, all his working life, in work at 6 o'clock. Now he gets up at 9:30. Makes the beds, right? Takes the dog for a walk, right? And then cooks tea because his wife is working. I said, "Is that your life? Is that what you do? Is that retirement?" I'll never retire, Luke, ever. You might slow down and you may take a bit more time off. The thought of that fills me with absolute horror. Absolutely no purpose, right? No reason. Financially, fine. Nice car, nice house, great. But what makes you get out of bed in the morning? Nothing. I cannot get my head around that, And I see so much of it at guys my age, Luke. When I was still in Royal Mail, I look at people my age, a bit older, got the career, and they go on holidays to Barbados and all this. But you're working 14 hours a day, you're out the house 7 days a week. You've got nothing. I don't ever remember anybody having a hobby at my level other than going to the football on a Saturday and having a few pints, right? I don't ever remember somebody saying that they're cycling down the Alps or they go they're doing a marathon or something. I don't ever remember senior managers having a hobby. There might be one, of course, and I just think that leads you to that retirement of feet up, lovely, and that's a slow death for me. That is a slow death, that for me is painful.
So there's a lot there, though, Huw, that you shared. Thank you for that. Obviously, you shared a little bit about the hardest moments of obviously being locked out, or maybe introverted.
Yeah.
Was you just to sort of backtrack a little bit, and we'll go on to the other stuff because, like I say, some good stuff. Was you always introverted even before that, or did that sort of experience there, growing up and being around that, did that make you introverted?
I think that did. It's full of ironies. Like I've done 3 bodybuilding shows, right? So standing on stage, in a tiny thong covered in gravy browning is not a problem. Absolutely not a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Not a problem, right? But like I said, sitting on a table with 5 blokes or 10 blokes, I'm really uncomfortable with it. So it's the irony in it, really outgoing, but really, really introverted. I think a lot of people have that. They are the both extremes, and I've always been like it. If I went out with the boys now, say there was 10 of us, 100%, I'll be the quietest one there. I'll be the
And what do you
quietest.
think? What? Yeah. So what do you think that is for then? What's the reason behind that? Because obviously you're very
Listen,
confident. Obviously you're quite. You can do things on your own, like you say. You could live in a one
yeah,
bedroom lighthouse, but then you get in a group setting with guys, and
yeah,
you just sort of go in your
yeah.
shell a little bit. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, because I didn't have the confidence growing up. I always thought I was different. I was different, and that. But when you're that age, it tends to sap your confidence as well, don't you? The,
Yeah.
these boys are, I don't know, they're all, I don't know. Again, now at my age now, it's like, what was I thinking? But when you're that age, it's a major deal, isn't it? If you're not conforming, it's a massive deal, and then because you're not conforming or you're not in gangs, as in, the groups, you feel then as if your confidence has gone, and then you withdraw a little bit, like I was, and I think because there was so many people in the house, I used to love it. Anytime I had in the house as a kid, half an hour by myself, I used to love it. I used to think, thank God for that. There's normally about 8 people here. Now there's nobody. And I still, to this day, my wife will tell you, it's probably, it's wrong. It's wrong. I go to Spain by myself. I went to Australia last year by myself. I just prefer, if I had to come to, I use this analogy, if you said to me, will you pick me up from Aberdeen Airport, Luke? Right? I do it 100%. I love helping people. I'll come and get you, Luke, but I'm coming on my own. I do not want a co-driver or somebody to keep me company. That would be my idea of hell. Seriously,
Yeah.
that would be. And on the way back, I'd prefer it if you slept for 8 hours, so I can just, I like to be able to go where I want to go. I train by myself. I don't want to be relying on anybody else either. And I think, can I go deep psychological? Yeah, can I?
Go for it.
This is
Yeah.
why I think I do everything solo. I don't want to let people down, but I don't want to be let down. And I think for years I had this inner sort of mild anger. It never came out in any bad form. I thought, well, right, Mr. Universe, Mr. World, you took my mother at 5 when I was 5, so F you. And okay, if that's how it's meant to be, then I'm not having it. And why was I going psychologically on that? Oh, that's my phone.
You're all good. Don't stress.
Oh man, and you do not want to know what my ringtone is either. Oh no, for your listeners, I'm not ready to listen to that. Honest to God, I'm not even going to tell you what it is. But I forget where that was going now. Why was I going down that? I saying about the psychology of it. That's lost me for a minute, but yeah, it's gone. Where were we going?
No. So you were just saying about that. We was talking. You prefer to do things solo.
Yes.
And you was just saying about the universe. Talk to the universe, saying, you took my mother at 5.
Got it.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Got it. So if my view was if I think my mother, not her fault, let me down. That was my anger for years. I never had one. My stepmother let me down. So I'm not going to be relying. I don't want to rely on anybody else to make my life and whatever I want to do. That's what I was going with. The psychology came from that. Is I don't want to let anybody down, but I don't want to be let down either. I think the world has let me down as a 5-year-old. Taking my mother away from me. You've let me down. So okay, I'm now not going to allow anybody else to do that to me either. And anybody that I never go after anybody, Luke, but I cut people quickly. If people just abuse my goodwill, then they're done. It's game over. Not in a bad way, and I'll never badmouth them.
No.
Put anything in print or nothing. But it's like, okay, energy done, withdrawn, energy withdrawn. Brutal, but that's a fact. And I think it's come from that. And I can't be let down by anybody, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a lot. I mean, not to sort of put it on. I do feel like me and you're in a room just having a bit of a friendly chat, and then there's obviously an audience listening. But you're very similar to me in that aspect, Huw. I'll be there through thick and thin for anybody. You know, I'll show up on time. There's something seriously wrong if I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I feel I scare people away because I'm too intense. But it's only because I care, and also I've got high standards, right?
Absolutely.
But what you're saying anyway is spot on. It's making a lot of sense now why you prefer the solo journey and stuff like that. I'm the same. You know, I love doing my you're talking about your wife. You'll go to Australia, whatever. I go on my solo trips. Like I went out to Montenegro, a place last year, which I went to this place and I knew a few people, and like Abby's going to me like, oh my God, why are you even going there? And it's like, I'm going, so it's important to have that independence, but I think it's good. And obviously, again, it comes from you knowing that you are responsible for your life and nothing else matters, like you say. It's linking really well. So we are obviously getting towards the end of the episode, and there's something that I want to sort of touch on. So you've obviously gone through a lot in your career, your life, and I think this will be a nice little sort of getting towards the end conclusion piece. With now then, you've mentioned the word purpose a lot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So have you lost purpose in your life? And if you have, how did you find it? How did you rediscover it? What did you have to do?
Yeah, several times, I think, Luke. Now on reflection. In work, outside of work, fine. Been married a long time, two boys, great. Everything was fine, but it was, the work wasn't fulfilling. I was good at it, but it wasn't fulfilling. And I think several times, but I used to move departments. Every sort of 3 years, I'd go somewhere else. I'd go and get a promotion, not because I was promotion driven. It's like, well, that job. I went to Cardiff, right? This is a big one. I'm from Swansea, and we got our big depot is Cardiff. Nobody goes that way, and vice versa. Nobody does that switch, right? Nobody from Swansea goes to work in Cardiff, and nobody from Cardiff comes to work in Swansea.
Why?
Because we hate Cardiff. Apparently, we hate Cardiff. Did you know it's the only bubble match in Britain at the moment still? Football, when Cardiff plays Swansea, you can't get a ticket. You bust in, you pick your ticket up in a service station, you bust into the ground, and you bust out. You can't go to the game. You can't go to the game. It's mad. That's how bad the rivalry is, right?
Gosh.
Anyway, but so nobody does that trade, right? But I was asked to go. I had a good years, and I was asked to go, and I thought, I'm going to Cardiff. I'm going to Cardiff. I'm going to try this stuff out. I'm going to give it a crack. So I always try to freshen it up. The answer to the question is I always try and freshen it up whenever I feel that sense of purpose going, that point. Why am I doing this? I'm just picking up my money, churning out rubbish. I think it's the thought of going into averageness again. I took jobs, I went for jobs that, oh my God, you must be off your... But I thought, well, I'm going to try because I like the sound of that. I like and the best 4 years I had in Royal Mail ever was Cardiff. And that's, but you shouldn't go. You shouldn't go to Cardiff. You shouldn't, but I did. And that was the best time I had. I love the people. I'm still friendly. I'm more friendly with Cardiff people I worked with than the Swansea people now. I keep in touch with very few. But again, I took that. It's not even a risk. I just... I don't know. I keep going on about this. You don't know what you don't know, But yeah, I've had several times, but I freshen it up. Same with the business now. I was doing a lot of in-person stuff at one time, and it was becoming, hang on, I'm doing too much of this. Not enjoying this anymore. So I stopped it altogether. Just overnight, I just stopped it. Went online, which gives me a lot more. Now I've got a nice little hybrid model of the two. So you've got to keep things fresh. The thought of just churning out. Same when I was working, Luke, churning out stuff frightens me. Just churning out, whatever.
It's burnout, isn't it? It's too much. It's too much. It's burn. Yeah, you get bored, like you say that. I think that word boredom is quite...
Biggest stress.
Yeah. I agree with that. So what? Yeah, so the purpose element, is good, and I think you're talking about, like you say, freshening it up. You've obviously gone against the grain. You're going against what most people are saying, like don't go Cardiff or whatever, and obviously it's been the best sort of thing. So it's like, I think this would be a really good sort of insight for the guys listening in, is that what everybody's telling you right now, do the opposite.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's actually from what you're sharing with me. It's like everything that you've said. It's like what anybody's telling you, do the opposite.
There's a great book which I've read in the last year, which I, in my own head, I wrote 30 odd years ago, right? Called Unreasonable Hospitality, Will Guidara, right? It's about a guy he runs a restaurant in New York, and I love it, right? And I love the analogy. It's the 50th best restaurant in the world, and he took his team to the best restaurant in the world, not to see how they do it, right? But to see what stuff they do badly, right? And reverse benchmarking. Rory Sutherland, Welshman, advertising guy, check him out. He talks about it. Brilliant. Why are we benchmarking against people that are doing the same thing? Well, that's good. No, and I do it in my coaching. I've hired coaches, Lou, deliberately with no intention of using them, paid for them to see how they do it. And I've doubled down on what they do badly, right? And for me, my business model is contact. I have contact with my people every day if they want it. That's the difference, because nobody offers it. Nobody offers it, So I think looking for that different again, rather than, well, they do that good, okay, I'll do that. No, well, that's standard. That's basic stuff. We should be doing that. What are they doing badly, And I went after that. That's what I was doing.
It's good. Yeah.
That's what I was doing years ago without really knowing what the hell I was doing. It's like, I don't want to do that. I think, that's great. That's what, because you benchmark around the country in a big organization. And I used to say, well, why can't we, why? I always used to ask, why? Why are we doing that? What's the point?
Yeah.
Which goes back to purpose. What's the point?
Yeah.
My mate who gets up at 9:30, I've had conversations with him. What's your purpose?
Probably don't know how to answer it.
Don't know how to answer it. He hasn't got it. No, it's great. I think, man alive. I just like, and I see people then. I know a guy who's one of my son's girlfriend's grandfather. He's 79, businessman in Swansea. As full on today as the day he started. 79 years of age, involved in everything.
Brilliant.
Opening businesses still. Brilliant. Great energy. Great crack. And the thought of sort of stagnating into oblivion and putting you. There's two types of retirement in there, Luke. There's put your feet up time, or I've earned it, or there's, okay, that's part one done. Here comes part two. Here comes part two of my life, And I think that's what I'm doing now. It's just like, we're alive today, aren't we? It's a cliche. We're alive today. That's all we got.
Yeah, it's brilliant, Huw. I love your perspective. It's fresh. I'm going to use that word fresh because you like freshening things up. I think that's really, really good. But look, obviously, there's a question I want to ask you. It's one I ask every guest on every single episode. Love to hear your views on this because this has been such a great episode. We're already over an hour. It's been great. What does mastering your life mean to you, Huw?
Oof. I think one of the big things, and I've done it a lot, thankfully, is not doing stuff that doesn't excite. I don't think we have what's the word I'm looking for? Not doing stuff that I have no interest in. Why am I doing stuff? I done it from an early age. Why am I doing stuff I have no interest in? That is dancing to other people's tunes. So trying to master in my life, okay, I have to go to work at certain times and I have to do certain things, but I want autonomy as much as possible. I want to be the master of your own destiny or all that stuff. But mastering your life, but I 100% believe you've got to have physical energy as well. Mental support requires mental well-being requires physical support. You've got to have the vehicle, us, has got to work well to support everything else. How can you master? How can you have control over your own life when you can't even control your body? I think that absolutely supports that. It's like everything else. Nothing is on its own. There's supporting stuff around everything we do. But if you're physically not on it, how do you expect for your business to go well, or your career to go well, or whatever it is? If to master that, you've got to take the one thing you can control to a large degree is you. Master that first, and that hopefully will transfer into every other aspect of your life. I believe that.
So master you, master your life, sort of thing. I think I love that, Huw. That's really, really great. The autonomy, the freedom, all that. It's sort of it does link very well to what we've shared today, and I know our audience are going to love it. Just a last thing. I mean, obviously, we will include everything that people need to know, sort of where to find you online. But if there were one platform, where's the best place for people to sort of follow along your journey and connect with you, Huw?
I do like LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn. It's not because it's corporate. One thing I do know, Luke. Some of the big guys I got working with me now, the big corporate jobs. Right? I won't say because it's private, but
yeah, of course.
Every single one of them, when we are together, they love the non-corporateness because they
they just want to be real. They just want to be normal.
They're real.
Yeah.
Their life is corporate. So I like LinkedIn because I don't pretend to be anything otherwise. Just put experience out there. Love posting on there. Love telling stories on there. Sharing anything. I'll answer any questions. Any question, I'll answer anything. Because if I don't know the answer, but I've got nothing to hide, nothing to, so LinkedIn's a good one. I like LinkedIn. Yeah, I do Instagram and Facebook just for, and I've got a YouTube channel, which I've just bought a new camera, which is better. So I'm going to film. I've had a YouTube channel for a while. It's nothing much on it, but I'm going to film raw videos of me in the gym training. So men of my age can go, what? He really does only do 20 minutes.
Yeah, of course.
Is that it? When people say, is that it? That's the words I want to use. I want to hear. If I give someone a plan and they go, what? Is that it? Great. I've got you. Yes, that's it. Just do that, And I love that. Just stripping everything back. And my YouTube channel, I've just done the first video, is going to be absolutely me talking for 2 minutes, plonking the camera, and I'm going to train. This is it.
Brilliant.
To show men of my age that you can do it. Everybody can and should train, because we've discussed it. But I want to show them that you don't have to be in the gym for hours. You don't have to be in the gym for hours 6 days a week. 20 to 30 minutes, 3 times a week. You don't go winner. People still don't believe me. And the last quick story, Luke, if it's okay.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I was in a commercial gym about 18 months ago now. I was talking to a guy. He wasn't a kid, in his 30s, early 30s. He must have seen me on Facebook or something. And we were talking about training. And he said, I train for an hour and a half. He said 6 days a week. I said, he said, what do you do? I said, I train for about 90 minutes. I said, a week. And he went, a week? I said, yeah. He said, it's not enough. I said, well, I got my views. I never imposed them on anybody. I said, well, they said, no, it's not enough. You've got to do it. I said, okay, then. I went, I leaned in like that. I said, take your top off then. And he went, you got it. And the point I was trying to make is, I train for 20 minutes. You train for an hour and a half. I'm 30 years older than you. But
yeah. No. It's good because it's like, it's not ego. It's like drop your ego, but actually I'm leading. You're a leader in what you're trying to put out to the world. It's like if you say, like for example, if he's saying that I'm doing an hour and a half 6 days a week, well, show me that's what it looks like. You've got to be in good shape. You've got to be in incredible shape. But obviously, if not, then something's got to change. Well, look, Huw, obviously, loved having you on, and this has been fantastic. It's that good that it's gone over our time, but that's absolutely fine. Final words from me. I just want to thank you for being with us on this show today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm looking forward to this one coming out.
Brilliant. Thanks, Luke. And hopefully, if it helps one person, I'm happy with that.
It 100% will, I'm sure.
Great stuff.